Hello, you're watching Everard Junction, and today is part 4 of the canal scene. Making progress steadily. We're still doing the realistic water, but we are finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. What you're looking at here is the 4th layer of realistic water. It is pretty much dry to the touch, although it hasn't completely gone off yet. You can still see it's a little cloudy and the blue tinge is still there, but it'll need about another 24 hours. If I touch the surface with a small screwdriver, I can hear that the surface is hardening, but I still leave a mark in the surface. There's still a dent or an impression from the screwdriver, so that indicates to me that this is still going off. But it's looking good. The depth is coming up. I've been using the ladder as a sort of height gauge. Perhaps 2 thin layers and we should be there. So today I'm going to be doing some more scenery over here, and the water is touch dry, so if anything falls down there I can at least vacuum it off. It's not completely set yet, and I don't want to put another layer on until I'm confident that this is set and it's cleared, so still got to wait for that. So in the meantime I can crack on with the scenery over here. I'm going to be using Woodland Scenics as usual. I've taken delivery of some more shakers, as you can see. I've got quite a lot now, various grades, colours and blends. The shakers, they cost about 7 or 8 quid per shaker. I've built these up over a year or two, and they do last for ages. I used to buy little bags of scenery, similar to this type of thing. You'd buy a little bag of scatter or something for maybe £2 or £3. They don't last very long. You'll use it maybe on one particular scene, or you might have it for a few months and it runs out. You've got to go and buy another bag. For me, anyway, the Woodland Scenic shakers are a good value for money because they just last me for ages. Bushes, turf, ground cover, underbrush, the whole lot. It's all good stuff and it lasts a long time. I've also purchased some scenic cement for the first time. I've never really used this stuff in the past. However, I've seen a lot of YouTubers, mainly in the US, use scenic cement, and Woodland Scenics themselves in most of their product demos, obviously they use it, but it looks like it's quite a good adhesive because it just seems to work really nicely. So I bought some when I ordered the shakers, and I thought, well, you know, I'll give it a go and see how things go. So what I've done is I've gone along this hillside. This was all recently put in and set with PVA glue, but there are areas that are a bit loose. So I've squirted a load of scenic cement over the scenery, and it should soak in nicely. There's a wetting agent in the glue that beds in and soaks right down. You can see it's soaking in quite nicely, so hopefully most of that will be pretty secure when the scenic cement goes off. Okay, so let's just briefly pick up with where we've left off with on this scene. I've applied 2 different fine turfs to this area, and this is to create the base sort of layer, the base scenery. This is effectively the soil or the earth. I've used 2 different blends. We've got Woodland Scenics fine turf, the soil variety, and there's another one as well which is called earth, which is the lighter colours that you see here. I've put them in sort of a random fashion. All these materials will blend together quite nicely, but you don't want to create a uniform colour because otherwise it sort of defeats the object of using all the different bits and pieces. Okay, so now there's some soil there. We've got the base earth, and we've also got the brown paint showing through in places underneath, which is also important. We're going to start adding the greenery. And the first thing I'm going to do is use a blended turf. This is the green blend, and it's just nice to start off with, and you can get some of the areas where you want some more of the grass to be, and you can define some of the steeper, sort of drier areas where perhaps there's going to be less ground cover. So you don't want to put it everywhere, just want to apply it sparingly in small areas to highlight certain bits. I just shake them right out of the bottle. Give it a bit of a shake. You'll find that this stuff settles in the bottles if it's been in the stores for a long time, so sometimes it requires a little bit of encouragement. So I'm going to go for more green up at the top here where it's flatter. You can do this any way you like really, but just keep going until you've got an effect that you're pleased with, something that you are happy with keeping on the layout. Right, I'm going to leave that for the blended turfs. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to some coarse turf. This is really good for creating some sort of density to what you're doing. You get some variation in heights, give that effect of moss on the ground and various plants, things like that. This particular one is the light green. I've also got a burnt grass colour, which is similar to olive green. I like the light greens and the olive greens. I'm not so keen on the darker stuff. I like the lighter colours. And the olive green and the light green complement each other quite nicely. You can see that this is a denser material. And this creates a really nice texture on the surface. You can see we're getting rid of that two-dimensional look. Okay, going to go for some burnt grass. This is basically olive green, which is a colour I'm quite fond of. I use it a lot in the layout. Nice thing I like about the woodland scenic stuff is you can blend it all together. So I've gone into a coarse turf, but I feel this area is a little too dark, so I'm going to come back with the finer blended turf, some of the green, and I'm just going to go over the top of it, just lighten that up a little bit. There we go. Apply some around here as well, where I just add it as and where you feel it will be beneficial. I'm going to come back to the coarse turf. And then let's say, for example, I mean, you can go right back to the beginning. Let's say, for example, that you're worried about an area, you think perhaps, oh, that's too green, don't like it, I want that to be thinned out slightly. Well, you can just come back with the soil and you can just apply that wherever you feel is necessary. You can see the materials blend together really nicely. Here's a better look for you. You can see it's varied in colour, and we've got the varied textures. It's looking good. Let's see if we can focus on there. You can see the larger clumps look really effective. That's what I like about the coarse turf. Okay, I'm going to hit that with some scenic cement. Try not to disturb it too much. That should soak in nicely. Next thing I'm going to do is some static grass. I've got the long fibres here. These are made by Sulfur, I believe, and I've also mixed in some of the where is it? It's in there somewhere. Here we go. Remember one video I did in the past over on that section where I used some long fibres to create clumps of tall grass? Well, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cutting some small lengths of this that are longer than this 6mm Sulfur grass, and then what I do is I put it in my static grass applicator, and you can see we've got different lengths in there, and that creates a really nice natural, wild, unkept sort of look. Okay, I'm going to hook up my earth wire. There we go. I didn't want to touch it with my hand because I've actually turned the applicator on already, and it does give you a bit of a shock, which is a little unpleasant, so I don't like to touch it when it's turned on. It's not lethal or anything, it's only connected to a 9-volt battery, it's just a bit annoying. So I'm going to put some more scenic cement down, saturate the area. That's good enough. This will give something for the static grass to stick to. Okay, here we go. Now it's very easy to overdo this. I have done in the past. Very, very easy to do far too much static grass. You end up with the place looking like a football field. Sometimes you have to shake it quite a bit. I've got quite a thin gauze on the end of it. Try and put the grass on the flatter areas where it's more likely to grow. Not sure how well you can see, but the longer fibres are looking really good. And then I'll do some more down the bottom, but not as much. And then when we get right to the bottom, do a bit more. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. If I want to do any more, I can. What's difficult is when you've overdone it and you want to undo. Okay, I put a piece of bubble wrap on the canal just to protect it from static grass getting in there. Next thing to do, something I always do, is to manipulate the grass with your fingers. You don't want it to look all perfectly straight. This will make things look a little bit more wild and unkept. I'm also going to pluck any bits of grass that are too long, that look unusual, look silly. Trying to get the grass a little more vertical up the hill. It'll always stick perpendicular to the surface it's on. So when you put it on when it's downhill, it tends to stick out towards the camera. Again, get rid of any bits that are too long and look unusual. That's pretty good for me. Okay, we're getting there. Things are looking pretty good so far. You can see how the coarse turf, coupled with the fine turf underneath, really complements the grass. It looks like it's actually rooted into something rather than just a simple painted surface. Again, as well, something important to note, more grass on the flat areas, and then as we descend, not so much. Less is more. Okay, next thing I'm going to be doing is applying some underbrush. This is basically bushes or clump foliage. It's just not quite as dense. It's best put on with your hands because it's quite thick. I've got some olive green, personal favourite, and I've also got medium green, which I will use to break up the olive green. And you want to apply it in clumps. Go out into the real world, you'll see this stuff tends to clump together. And you can see this is basically the clump foliage that you get for making trees. It's just not as dense. The material is more broken up. And this will make a nice section along the edge of the path we've got down here. Again, I'm going to put some up here by my temporary piece that's holding the water in. Get up on the bottom there. Okay. Move on to the darker green. I'm not going to use so much of this, just in a couple of places. And then again, this is one of the benefits of the Woodland Scenics blended system. You can see the colours are looking good, but there's a little bit too much of a difference. It goes olive green, then a medium green. There's no blending going on. So what we can do is we can apply some of the coarse turf over the top of this. I'm also going to go over it with the fine turfs. Again, this will just blend things in a little bit. Create that area of variation. You also get the illusion of the smaller areas of bushes that are starting to come through. And again, all of these can be blended together. So that was olive green, as you can see, because it's blended in. We're now going to come in with some of the light green, which is a similar colour, but it's ever so slightly different. Any bits that go outside will blend with the static grass that settle to the bottom. Okay, looking better already. Now let's keep going. Come in with blended turf. This is a mixture of medium and light green. And again, use it sparingly, don't want very much. But this just helps to blend the materials together. Just keep playing around with it until you're happy. Alright, that's looking much better. Bit of foliage fell in the river, no worries, at least it's dry. Okay, next stage, coming towards the end now. Next stage is bushes. Same sort of deal, just more dense. The material is larger, it's in larger clumps. I'm going to be using some olive green. Now there's loads of different colours. All of this stuff is available in different colours. What's impressive is the amount of variation you can get just using a small selection of colours. Now what I'm going to be doing is placing these bushes on the surface of what I've already done, and that will create some height. Get the effect of a large piece of sort of ground cover, a large area of bushes. Put some up against the fence up here. Again, just play around, add it where you feel it's appropriate. You can all break this stuff up as well. And there's some more just there, a piece up there. Okay, going to add some more effects. This is just called foliage. Get it in all sorts of colours. Shown you it before, and it's made from this really dense fibrous material that you can pull out and stretch into different effects, and it's good for creating vines and those sort of those big weeds that cover the ground and really sprawl across things like pavement and stuff like that. Something I've recently discovered is this stuff. I didn't know about it before. I just assumed it was a bag of scatter, but no, it's impregnated onto this weird sheet, and you just pull it and tease it until you're happy with it and place it on the scenery. Here's some of the foliage. I'm just going to tease it into the form that I want. Let's do this off camera for a second, I'll show you in a sec. I think the thinner you make it, the better it looks. It's personal opinion. There you go. So that looks like a big sprawling weed. So what you can do is you can come down onto your scene, and we'll place that, and it sort of becomes entangled with the scenery that's already there. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but that's a nice effect. I'm going to have a few places and put that in, I think. Okay, I've made a big weed. I'll place it on top of what's already here. I'm not sure how well you can see it, but the sort of little strands look like stems. Looks like a big piece of weed that's growing out. I'm going to add some more around here. I really like this stuff. Wish I'd known about it sooner. It's very cool material to work with. Takes a little bit of getting used to, but I think it's really cool. As I say, I wish I knew about this sooner, because I think I'm going to have to add this stuff into other places on the layout. Okay, going to set that in with some scenic cement. While that's drying, I almost forgot. Need to add some flowers, just to get a little bit of a burst of colour in here. Going to use the foliage again on that impregnated stretchable sheet, and then the flowers. I like to get the flowers really thinned out. I think they look much better that way. Okay, I'm just going to add those in here. It just gets that little pop of colour. That subtlety's the key here. I don't want to go too mad with this, but it's a nice effect all the same. Little bit of colour. You can also use it as a scatter, as you can see here. Plenty of the foliage falls off while you're tearing it and stretching it and moving it around, so it does make a good scatter, and it helps bridge the gaps I've got between the different pieces. Okay, that's pretty cool. Just going to blend it in a little bit though. It's nice for it to pop, but I think it pops just a little too much. This helps blend it in a little better. Okay, still not finished, but I'm going to let that dry. While this is drying, I'm just stippling some more colour onto the canal. This stuff does dry very clear, so I want to get a little bit of murkiness in there, a little bit of nasty colour. So I've literally got to put some tiny dregs of some nasty sort of brown and black paint, and you can see I've been stippling it on the surface, and in certain lights you can see right the way through it down to the next layer, and other places it looks a bit different. It's all wet at the moment obviously, but yeah, it's looking really good. So all I'm doing is just stippling it. I start at the edges and work my way in. Got the other side as well. Get a bit around the trolley. I don't know how well you can see, but underneath there's a bit of foliage that's got caught to the trolley, as if it's flown downstream, got stuck. I put that in on the second layer, I think. There you go, getting that murky, dirty effect. The blue cloudiness will go when this water has set. I'm going to add a couple of trees, and I mean literally just a couple, just to finish the area off, and then I'll add some other effects on right at the end. I'm going to be using some relatively small trees because I do not want to obstruct the view of the trains as they cross the bridge, but I feel that it's important to at least have some trees all the same, otherwise the area to me just doesn't look finished. We'll pop one in there, just using some neat PVA glue to apply it. As you can tell, I have conveniently already pre-drilled the hole. There's the tree. I've got to pop another one in further up at this end. It's not huge, but it just adds a little bit of a nice effect. It's a woodland scenics tree. It's one of the ones that you make yourself. So you get the bag of plastic tree armatures, and then you apply your own choice of foliage to the top. Personally, I like to use fine leaf foliage for the trees. I think it's a nice realistic look. Okay, the glue's dried, and I've put the two trees in. I might add a few little bits in the future, but I've poured another layer of realistic water, so I'm going to let that dry before I come back and do any further work. So that concludes part 4, and in part 5, hopefully the realistic water will be dry, that will all be finished, and then I can start working on some of the finer detail and create some little scenes and stuff.